Well, Panthers fans, week 3 is in the books. Another Panthers loss, this time to the Seattle Seahawks. 37-27, your final score. If we're being honest, really wasn't that close at the end. We got a garbage time touchdown that made it look a little bit closer. But really, towards the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, this game was out of hand, wasn't there. But here we are, another week, another loss, and questions are starting to come up. The fan base is frustrated. I look across, all my social media platforms, and I don't know that there is a single Panthers fan with a positive outlook on our situation. Bryce Young sits out, dealing with the ankle injury. Andy Dalton stepped in, and I'll tell you this, Andy Dalton looked like a dang good quarterback. He threw for 361 yards, 34 for 58. I mean, he threw the ball 58 times. You can't win many football games throwing the ball 58 times unless you're Patrick Mahomes. He had 2 touchdowns, 6.2 yards per pass attempt, much better than Bryce. Did get sacked 3 times, but overall, very solid performance. Where this team fell apart was on the offensive line, whether it was run blocking and inability to run block. I don't know if Miles Sanders is a bust. I don't know why Chuba Hubbard had 1 carry. I don't understand why we give Laviska Shenault the ball in the backfield, 2 carries for 7 yards. And I think one of those was actually a pass that counted as a rush, but you did hand it off to Laviska. The coaching on that, I don't get it. I will caveat all this to say that overall, the offense itself looked better. We took shots downfield. We saw connections with DJ Chark. We saw the big gainers, the plays that we have been missing. 25-yard pass, 25-yard pass to Thielen, the 47-yard touchdown pass to DJ Chark. Miles Sanders even getting involved in the pass game. He might not have been doing anything running the ball, but getting involved, catching the ball out of the backfield. Terrace Marshall Jr., Jonathan Mingo. So these receivers, and I think we expected that. We expected that. I talked about the Seattle Seahawks having one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. So it's a prime opportunity for us to come in and throw the ball. And I even said, if Andy Dalton looks really good, whether we win or lose, it's an opportunity for him. And I felt like he was going to perform. I think he broke his record for most pass attempts in a single game. But you can't expect to win when you cannot get any yards rushing. 44 yards rushing. We did have the 1 touchdown by Miles Sanders, finally got into the end zone. Outside of that, not a lot of to write home about. Let's talk about the offensive line, and let's talk about the false starts. I think there was like 7 or 8 false start penalties. There was a time there where it felt like every drive, and even on the same drive in back-to-back situations where we had false starts. Ike Ekwonu, Taylor Moton. There was numerous other linemen and players that had false starts, but these are like just bonehead moves, man. You're going into a loud environment. You're going into an environment where it's going to be difficult to hear the play calls. That's why you have the ability to go on a silent count. That's why you just take note of the place that you're in. Check with the guys around you on the play call. And it's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable because it is a sign of a very poorly coached team. And we are in week 3 of the season, and I'm not going to continue to sit up here and defend Frank Reich or this staff for what we've seen. There's things that go beyond Reich with the players that are on the field, and that has to do with Scott Fitter. I don't even know if I'm going to get into that today. I may save that for another day because I don't feel like it. But it was a deflating loss. after the game, Frank Wright pretty much just stuck his foot in his mouth too. If you've not had a chance to listen to this, so the question was brought up about the noise and the false starts. And he said that, yeah, we prepared for it. He even went on record saying that the environment that they practiced in earlier this week was louder than what was in the stadium. I'm going to call BS, man. I've been there, not at this particular practice, but I've been at the training camp when they pumped in the crowd noise, when Rule was here. And there's no way you can tell me you can simulate what went down for Seattle or at Seattle Stadium. There's just no way. I'm not buying it. But you stick your foot in your mouth by telling us that, like trying to convince us that you practiced in such a tough environment with fake crowd noise that the team was prepared. The team was not prepared. And this is where, as me personally, this is me. I'm not even going to say it's the fans. I'm not going to speak for anyone else but myself when I say Frank Wright was given the keys to the city. He was given the keys to the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, whatever you want to say. He was given that. He was just, here, have it. Steve Wilkes had to beg, borrow, steal, whatever you want to say, to even have a chance. When you look at what happened last year, when Matt Rule was fired and Steve Wilkes took over, and I've said it a few times, but Matt Rule took some guys with him when he went to Nebraska or was fired. There were some other firings that happened. And so Steve Wilkes is piecemealing a coaching staff in the middle of the season and is able to fire off wins, not to mention firing off a win against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. We beat Seattle in Seattle last year when we were an underdog. And yeah, people want to say it's a new year. It's not the same team. There's roster turnover. And it is. I think like almost half of our roster is brand new. But this is where you run into issues. When you have your coach, your head coach, standing up there every week since he's been hired, telling us this is not a rebuild. This is not a process, that we're here to win games and we're this close and this, and this. You're not gonna get it anymore. You're not gonna get the leeway. I joked that Matt Rule must have left a tip book here. He must have left a tip book in the desk, right in Frank Wright's desk, that gave him tips on how to handle these pressers. Because some of the stuff that I hear from Frank Wright, I'm like, dude, I don't want to hear it. Like, I just don't. 3 games in, the fan base is tired of it already because, like I said, I'll speak for myself. You can't go back. You can't rewrite history, but you can take a look around and say, man, why didn't Tepper give Steve Wilkes at least 1 year to figure this out? Give him a chance. Let him bring in his own staff and just see where it happens. I don't know what sweet talking Frank Wright did to get this job. I know he's got his brother at Wingate who coaches there. Maybe that's part of the bargain. Maybe he's the yes man that Tepper wants or needs. And if it's that Jerry Jones model to just say, yes, sir, I'm going to, do whatever you want. I don't know what it is. I'm not impressed. And if you followed the pod, earlier in the summer, I did a little segment talking about the success of rookie head coaches, so first-time head coaches, versus the success of coaches that have coached previously and taken over just in a new role. And what the data has shown is that typically a rookie head coach has more success than a coach that has already had head coaching experience that's coaching a new team. And you kind of think, well, maybe because there's a reason that whoever is taking over as a head coach at a new position, there's a reason that they got let go wherever they were. And that's what we see with Frank Wright. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't really read a lot into, what Colts fans were saying. I think it's a little bit different because it's not like he was let go at the end of the season, because it happened during the season and the Colts had already moved on to Jeff Saturday, that they were just in their own lane. But I have seen bits and pieces trickle in since then. That's kind of like, yeah, this is what we saw there. Conservative play calling. There's a few times where And I can't remember the specific situations right now, but where he just makes some questionable calls. And yeah, I do think overall it was better. But in general, this fan base is frustrated. And next week, when the Minnesota Vikings come into town, I think we're going to have a lot of purple people eaters out there, purple in the stands. Tepper, I don't know if this is what you wanted, if you wanted a yes man, and that's all you care about. Because guess what? Whether it's a purple jersey, whether it's a green jersey, a silver jersey, whoever's jerseys coming into Bank of America Stadium, as long as they're filling up your seats and spending the money, maybe that's all you care about. And you say, you know what? I don't care. We'll be the metropolitan or the melting pot of all these NFL teams that want to come here. I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. And I tell you this, you want to talk about Tepper, not him, but it's a good thing that we are not an MLS team, and not that MLS has regulation or realignment. If we were in soccer, the Panthers would be on the verge of being relegated down. There's no doubt about it. Here we are 0-3, and you got the Chicago Bears right there at 0-3. I joked, and I'm kind of serious. I said, the Chicago Bears, if I'm the Chicago Bears, what I'm going to do is I don't care about any other games. I'm going to game plan from this day on until the day that we play the Panthers, and I'm going to spend all my time playing the Panthers, because here's what's going to happen. The Panthers are going to keep losing. You have the Chicago Bears who own our draft pick. So what you're going to do is beat us. So you beat us. Our record continues to be terrible. And then you win your one game. Maybe you win 2 games. Guess what? You now have the number 1 and number 2 draft picks heading into next year, and you can do whatever you want. You can go out and destroy Caleb Williams or Drake May, and get your Marvin Harrison and just insane package, no telling, or trade that if you want. That's what I would do though if I was the Chicago Bears, because if we're being honest, folks, and I say it because it's just disappointing, man. Like, nobody wants to sit back and watch losing football, and to see and they want to see who got defensive, but for him to kind of sit there, it's almost like we were like 0-100 from the time that he took over. And I've said it, like, you've got the hype around the team, and then we get in here and you start falling apart, and then you just keep telling us that we're so close and we're right there, and you don't see it, and it's not coming to fruition. I don't know. It's frustrating, man. There's only so much you can say about these things, and each week you're like, man, am I really going to spend my time doing this? And I would say we're lucky that the Miami Dolphins just obliterated the Denver Broncos, because I would say we had one of the worst performances, but giving up 70 points, oh my God, I don't even know how to fathom that. That's actually scary to think about, that they probably could have scored more too. And so we've got them on our schedule coming up in about 3 weeks. If you take a look, we've got the Minnesota Vikings next week. They're 0 for 2. So we got the battle of the offers. And you know what? At this point, I do think we're not even getting into predictions, but I think Minnesota is going to take that game. I can't pick the Panthers to win a game until they win a game, because sorry, I'm now 1-2 on my predictions. I tried to ride high today, or leading up to this, didn't happen. Minnesota, though, then you go at Detroit. Detroit's going to be a loss. You go to Miami, go ahead and chalk that one up, and then we get on our bye. Texans with CJ Stroud look like a football team. I mean, first in their division, like we anticipated. I know it's early, but yeah. Colts winning football games as well. Upset over the Baltimore Ravens without Anthony Richardson. Then the Super Bowl of the losers against the Chicago Bears. Cowboys come into town. Titans are tough out. Buccaneers, Saints. The only upside to this weekend is that Atlanta and New Orleans lost. But guess what? Doesn't mean jack squat, because we lost as well. And now you're in a position where, do you even bring Bryce back? do you bring Bryce Young back? I mean, we know he's the starter. Go ahead. I mean, like if you look at the schedule though, yeah, he needs to play. But what benefit is this when you come back and you have the Vikings, Lions, Dolphins, and I don't think his injury is that significant enough to hold him out for 3 more weeks. And then, you go into the bye and maybe reset there. But I can tell you, Andy Dalton looked like a veteran quarterback. And where we had a lot of false start penalties was Andy was coming up to the line trying to make adjustments. And then our dang lineman just go ahead and drop back. It's just bonehead, man. Like, you can't tell me you can't hype this stuff up. You can't do it. You can't sit here and say, we have such a great coaching staff, one of the best in the league. Well, dang, I think we got a retirement home coaching staff, and we're just building out the retirement plans for all these guys because I'm not seeing any good football and any good coaching. I'm just telling you like it is, just not seeing it. All the talks that I had about Bryce Young being rookie of the year, scratch that off your list. That ain't happening. We landed here, though. This is where we are, and we are in a terrible, terrible position for the future of the franchise. We go all in, take our chips, we look at our hand, say, yeah, you know what? This is the move we're going to make. You slide it in, you go all in, you get Bryce Young, you trade away your draft capital. But you've had a lot of other moves where capital's been moved. Here's your issue. You need to answer at wide receiver. We know this. Sorry, if you're watching the video, you can see him taking a little break, but we need help at the wide receiver position. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Oh man, it'd be great if we could draft someone, especially since we're going to be so bad. Nope, not available. We'll be picking in the second round, and maybe we'll get another Jonathan Mingo who can get us about 5, 2, 3, 4 catches a game. Don't worry about getting Marvin Harrison Jr. That is a far, far cry. Man, so this is where we are. You're going to have to figure out how to make a move. I said this as well. Scott Fitter, I don't know where he's sitting. Like, I don't know if he's in the plane, if they're back, office, hotel, wherever he is, whatever seat he's on, that thing is burning hot, man. Because this is what I would do. If I'm Frank Wright, how do you save face? How do you save face through this whole situation? You go up to David Tepper and say, hey, man, I know I promised, that we would turn this thing around and win some football games, but you just got to listen to me, man. I think the issue really has to do with just the foundation and a lot of the moves that we've made to get here. And a lot of them were before me. And me and Fitter, man, we aren't seeing eye to eye. It's just not working out. I think we need to kind of reset there. You get rid of Fitter, you got to get a brand new window there because then everybody's like, oh, okay. Yeah, guess it is kind of a little bit of a rebuild now. But you make that move happen, get the guy that you want as a GM, and then you figure out what to do. We are about to be in desperation mode, in the same desperation mode that we were last year when we had Christian McCaffrey and we traded him away. Because now, I won't say I joked about it. I talked about it earlier. I tweeted, was like, would you consider trading Brian Burns? And at the time, and this was like earlier this week, a lot of people are like, no way. I tell you what, man, my timeline tonight's pretty full of people talking about moving Burns. And the reason why is you have to get draft capital in order to get a receiver, or you have to trade him for a receiver in exchange. And yeah, he's a core piece of the defense, but at the same time, like, man, he's kind of been up and down. Yes, he's a superstar athlete. Superstar player, but are you going to really pay him that much money? 28 to $30 million, and then you can't really pay any of those big free agents. And I'm kind of just like going away a little bit, but so I don't know. I don't know where you solve that. I don't have the answer to that. There's nobody available. The Smith Marset that we brought in, we haven't seen him. I don't know, man. It's just a weird position for us to be in right now as a team. And like, what does the future really look like? And that's where I was going. The future. So here we are, 0-3. If we do not win or start winning some football. Not for our sake. I'm going to tell you what, if I'm a free agent, why in the world, unless you're paying me a ton of money, which we're not going to have a ton of money to spend, why do I even want to come to the Carolina Panthers? Like, I'm looking at a sorry franchise that I'm looking at this right now. We've given up 81 points a game, 54. We've scored 54 points. So, hold on, let's do the math real fast. I got my phone right here. So 81 over 3 games. We're giving up 27 points a game. Yeah, that number, top 10, whatever you want to call it, defense, and we're scoring about 18 points a game. Very solid. But really, if you're a free agent, if you wanted to, or if the team wanted to make this an attractive place to be, you got to have Bryce Young looking good to attract the receivers, the linemen, the skill positions. I don't know. Your investment that you made in Miles Sanders, this is the other thing. Like, I don't know if it's the line, like the new pieces on the offensive line with some of the rookies. I don't know if it's the scheme, if it's the offensive play calling, because we ran the ball well last year. I know we did a lot of it with Foreman and Hubbard, but like, we aren't seeing Chuba Hubbard. You don't have Blackshear out there. He was inactive, healthy scratch. I'm guessing you're going to bring up Tariq Cohen at some point, and I'm not knocking Cohen, but like, what? I don't know. You talk about, or you say all this, and then we've got the decimation of injuries, and injuries are part of the game. They're part of the game, and you can't control it. But what you can control is coaching. What you can control is the depth that you build so that when these things happen, you do have a solid plan in place to help around. We saw a few injuries tonight that could impact as we continue to pile up the injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Frankie Louvu had a hip injury. He was out for the second half. Xavier Woods has a hamstring injury, and I think Frankie Louvu was a hip pointer, and then Jonathan Mingo with a concussion. So continuing to add, but that means nothing because Seattle was missing quite a few significant pieces. A lot of their guys were out, and you looked at their injury report, and I think they had, like I said, when I went through it, like 16 or 17 guys on there. Throwing my hands up if you're watching, because like, you can't use that. And, Frank Wright said that. I don't know if he feels the frustration. I really liked what Mike K put out that, before the season, Mike said that, and he writes for the Charlotte Observer, he kind of thought this was a rebuild. He predicted 8-9. He predicted a slow start. They got hot in the second half. Kind of side with him, but like, you have to ratchet down all expectations of what this team is going to be, because we have not shown anything. And I know what's going to happen next week. We're going to talk about it. And we're going to say, we're getting ready and moving on to Minnesota. It's a good football team. We're ready. No, we're not. We're just not. And that's the state of the team. It's the state. If you've been a fan, if you followed along over the years, and if you've suffered just like I have, this is just the norm. So welcome if you haven't been here. And here's the other thing. Like, I did tweet, I live tweet the whole game. I had to pause a little bit, helping with Pearson in between. I can't even remember what we did. Maybe we gave him a bath or dinner or something. Yeah, can't remember. We were doing all that, so I missed a little bit. But overall, live tweeting. And I'm just going to tell you, like, if you're following along, I said, like, I'm not impressed by Reich. Said a lot of stuff like that. Don't curse, so you don't have to worry about that. But my take was really, for those that may look at it, or if you're just now tuning in, this is like episode 42, I think. So I've been doing this technically in episodes for almost a year. As far as like the number of episodes, it'd be one per week, but I've been doing it since like February. And I've been covering the team. Like, I spend my time, and this is just kind of like a passion of mine, that I do this. I do this for me and do it for other Panthers fans with the hope that, hey, you get to hear Panthers talk, because we're not going to be on the national media. Like Bryce Young was out last week. There might have been a story. It's not the news. People want to talk about the big markets, what's going on with Justin Fields, what's going on with the Jets, Miami. Panthers are not a big name market. So this is what you get. So I say all that. And the other thing is like, yeah, about how I've felt about the team coming in. I don't know. Anyways, box score, because I'm not going to read too many of the stats, but Dalton, like I said, really good passing game. I mean, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was more than any passing he had last year. We held Geno Smith in check, like 296 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. We had the 1 turnover off of him. They ran the ball well, as we just can't stop the run. They had 18 carries for 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf looked like a men among boys against our secondary. He had 6 catches for 112 yards. Adam Thielen, and I know some of it's kind of the garbage time, but overall, like, very productive game. He had 11 catches, 145 yards, and a touchdown. So for the old man, he was doing it, okay? And that's the thing. It's like, what changed? I'll say the biggest thing, I didn't see any issues getting the plays in, even in the environment. I'm not saying that's a Bryce Young thing, but I am telling you, we did not have to burn any timeouts to get a play in like we've had to in the past 2 weeks. Get the plays in, execute. And there's just something, and I think it's just, Dalton's a veteran. I saw him in training camp, and he just looked like, if you give me a blind name test or stats test, or I don't even know really how to phrase it, but it was like him and Bryce Young, and I didn't know who was the number 1 overall pick, and they looked, and we're kind of going out there, but if they look similar in age, I would have taken Dalton. I would have taken Dalton because of his size. I would have taken Dalton because of his command that I saw and his ability to just navigate the offense. He knows what he's doing out there, and we saw that on display today. But let's talk about it. We had 10 of 19 on third downs. They were 3 of 13. You win the battle on third down. I mean, you can't ask for much better than that. We're almost 50%, and they're 3 of 13. Total yards, 425 for them, 378 for us. Again, I don't know what to tell you. We had more passing yards. They killed us in the run game. Penalties destroyed us. We had 13 penalties for 82 yards. They had 8 for 82, but it was just continued to be the defense. Our defense stepped up. They were 3 of 6 in the red zone. We were 2 for 2, so did what we could. But in reality, the game itself was close in the first half. We go up. It's 13-12 at halftime, and you feel good. Like, oh man, we've got an opportunity. Then things fall apart. I mean, why not? They always are going to, fall apart with us. And so they come out and score 10 in the third quarter, putting them up. And then we come back and we score, and it's 22-20. And you're like, oh man, we're right back in this. We got a whole fourth quarter to go. No, they come back, score a touchdown. And then from there, we kind of just sputtered out, and they go up 37-20. Then we get the garbage time, and it's 37-27, and that's your ball game. Not much else I can say as a fan. I mean, I'm here, I'm trooping out. I will try to find something positive to look at, and heading into this week. But if I'm saying this, like, I think Dalton needs to start. I think he needs to start for now. And again, and I know this is Bryce's team, but let Dalton start. I don't know. There's just too much surrounding what's going on right now. Dalton looked the part, and I don't see why you just don't put him out there, give Bryce another week to rest. And if you win a game, okay, well, do you want to put in Bryce or let him rest a little bit more? And maybe you, again, like I said, let him take over heading into the bye, or, as you head into the bye week, kind of reset and see where things are. If you don't plan on getting him any help or much more help, I can't help. I can't help you. But what we did see is Andy's ability he got the ball down the field. He made the plays that he had to make. Yeah, there were some misses and miscommunications and timings, but he was able to find his guys. Well, y'all, I am not going to keep rambling for the sake of talking. So that is it. That is my reaction to the Seahawks and Panthers. I hope y'all have a good one. I will release my preview to the Vikings later this week at some point. Anyways, peace. Y'all have a good one.